graduating class of 2020. Do you remember me? Because I remember you. I remember all of you in so many different ways and for so many different reasons. And I love remembering you because the memory of you enriches my life to this day. And so on this day of celebration of your many wonderful accomplishments, I would like to tell you what I remember most about each of you as you head off into your new adventures. I remember you because of what you produced in our time together. I remember Alexander Whitelaw and how hard he worked to pass the AP US History exam. Alex reminds me of the joy that can come from achieving excellence as a consequence of hard labor. I remember Johnny Stern and the beautiful art that once hung on the back of my classroom. Johnny will always remind me of the beautiful gifts that we each possess and the joy that can come from sharing those gifts with others. I remember Anna Cassino and her inspiring GSA presentation to staff after school. I hope to always possess the conviction that she possessed on that day. I remember Andrea Sala and the amazing MUN activity that she created, organized, and advanced. I aspire to have an ounce of the strength and the passion that she walks around with each day. I remember Emma Grew and her ambition and her assistance in planning an AP art trip to Paris, and it fills me with pride to see her accomplishing things around the world, like in Tanzania. But I remember you more than just what you did. I remember how you behaved in the hallways. I remember Ortega, who always treated everyone with nothing but kindness and respect. I remember Tomas and how he was consistently one of the nicest people I've ever met. I remember Tus and how hard he worked when he had a specific goal in mind. I remember Cassandra and how unapologetically fierce and confident she was. I remember Rebecca Sesson and how she walked, spoke, and moved around with more grace than anyone I've ever met in my life. I remember these people deeply because I admire and dream of achieving the characteristics which they seem to have mastered. But my memory of you goes beyond how I saw you behave. My memories are sparked by remembering the energy that you possessed and the energy that you were able to project out into the world. I remember Cameron and the energy of positivity that was brought back into the school when he returned. And I remember the vacuum of energy that was as clear as day when Daniela left the school. Both Cameron and Daniela's powerful auras of love and joy leave a mark wherever they go, and that is never more evident than when they were absent. I remember the energy that seemed to flow out of Dylan Choi almost every single day, and how he could make me laugh deep in my belly with just a smirk and a raising an eyebrow. I remember the energy that flowed so strongly out of Max, and how he could brighten an entire classroom with just a smile. I also remember the strange energy that emanated from Gabriel Roque. Gabe had this unique ability to do something that would usually annoy me, but since it was coming from him, it just made me laugh. I will always remember being around the presence of these students, and while I no longer feel their energetic presence, I'll always remember it. But more than just your energy, I have very vivid memories of what you did in class that I'll never be able to forget. I will never forget the way that Camila Mora would just avoid eye contact at all costs when I was asking an annoying philosophical question about the meaning of life. I remember the look on her face as she hoped and prayed that I wouldn't call on her, and I'll also never forget that she always gave the most brilliant answers when I did actually call on her. I'll never forget the sight of Sofia Andrade raising her hand in the air, and I'll never forget the sight of sitting across the dinner table from her in the Netherlands on an MUN trip. There's no way I could ever forget Sophia Million bouncing up and down the streets of Paris or Rome with this infectious energy of life as she chased any puppy in sight. And I'll never forget that I had the privilege of being able to see the world through the eyes of Juliana Trejos. I can't possibly forget the wonderful moments where I got to glimpse her beautiful interpretation of our world. And I'll never forget the style of Sofia Tico. Now that's a weird thing to say because I don't remember anything that Tico wore besides her school uniform. So it's kind of odd for me to say that she had style, But it is so clear to me that Tico has style. And so Tico proves to me that style is not about what you wear, it's about how you wear it. And that's something I can't forget. But more than just with my eyes, some sounds will forever reverberate in my ears and forever be a part of my memory. How could I ever forget the passionate screams of Ignacio Calvo? I can still hear him screaming in the hallway, where he would be screaming about Spider-Man or Vladimir Lenin or Super Smash Brothers, or all three in the same sentence. I can still hear the powerful voice of Jose Maria, who sounded like the reincarnation of Simón Bolívar when he speaks Spanish, with passion and intensity and conviction. And I remember the sweet voice of Fernanda Balzaretti, not only on Spotify, but also just the way that her laugh could melt your heart. I remember the strength behind the words of Mia and how every word she said seemed to come from a place of strength and conviction. And I remember the terrible dad jokes of Floria Fang and the nervous giggle that would always accompany them. Seriously, if she doesn't make a 2020 vision joke during her speech, it will be a national travesty. But of all, I remember the sounds of CDS. But more than just the sounds, I remember so many qualities and characteristics that I admired. I remember wishing, hoping I was just as courageous and self-aware as Allison. I remember admiring the ambition and the maturity of Zara. I remember being impressed by the silent confidence of João, who never seemed to have anything to prove to anyone except himself. I admired the self-awareness and the unapologetic self-acceptance of Fio. And I deeply admired Gabby, who always seemed to march to the beat of her own drum. I remember these qualities, and I have meditated deeply about how I wish I could incorporate these characteristics in my own life. And for this memory, I'm eternally grateful. Now, of all the things that can be found at Country Day School, the characteristic that I found most frequently and most free-flowing throughout the school was love. No one possesses more friendliness and love than the people at CDS. People like Xavi, who has more heart than any man I've ever met. No one was friendlier than Emilio, who made everyone feel like they were his best friend. Ricardo Rojas might be the most sincere and honest person I've ever met, and Jose Mario was never anything but kind and courteous to all those that he interacted with. Mariana Picado seemed to have the energy of love just bursting forward out of her, and that energy flowed in all directions. These individuals seem to have figured out at a very early age that the meaning of life is love, and they've mastered it. Now, the great Maya Angelou once said, at the end of the day, people won't remember what you said or what you did, they'll remember how you made them feel. I remember Karina making me feel proud, not just because of her athletic performance, but the way that she juggled her work-life balance. I remember Jishuan making me feel like a close friend after he beat me at a Super Smash Brothers tournament and eliminated me. I remember Valerie, who was the first person to genuinely make me feel welcome at Country Day School. I remember Tomás Echandi, who made me feel motivated to be a better teacher. And I remember Nicholas Pasuelo, whose presence always made me feel grateful to be in Costa Rica. I remember Eric Evans making me feel delighted for the chance to watch him bloom and grow stronger each and every day. And I remember Anna, who made me feel pure joy as I got the privilege to watch her realize her own strength and have her recognize how powerful and wonderful she truly is. Unfortunately, it pains me that I never got to make any memories with Rachel, Samuel, Seth, or Natalia, but I hope that you made some beautiful memories with some of the best students on the planet. I made a lot of memories in Alajuela, but of the things I remember from Country Day School, do you know the thing that I remember the most? More than anything? The gallo pinto, obviously, it is so delicious and wonderful, and I miss it every single day. The natilla, the huevo, the toast. I have daydreams of getting on an airplane and going and getting some pinto all the time. It is the best food on the planet, and anyone who tells you otherwise should probably be thrown off of a cliff. It's so good! Okay. In all seriousness, do you know what I remember most? I remember the love. I remember that love flew freely in each direction throughout the hallways of CDS, because love is something you can never forget. And I received so much love at that school. I hope you feel the same. Graduates of 2020, I love you very much. Congratulations.